And this next speaker I'm very, very excited for. If you've ever heard Jeff Turner speak, he's one of the premier futurists in this industry. And every single audience that I've watched Jeff speak to, their jaw is quite literally in their lap. So I'm very excited to have Jeff come up and talk about some future trends.
Technology showcase. Guess what? I have no interest in a technology showcase. Okay? I apologize to the organizers, but I'm going to go a slightly different direction. I didn't think it was a good idea for me to stand up on this stage in front of this group of people and give you a technology demo. I don't think you need any more advice on how to write ChatGPT prompts. I think there are plenty of people out there who can make you do that. Instead, I want to tell my own story. Not going to be anywhere near as good as Brad's, trust me. I'm not in Australia, so I'll refrain from the curse words that would typically flow out. I shouldn't have to explain this slide to US audience. I do believe it's time to double down on cooperation. But I think what we need to do is expand the definition of what cooperation looks like and take it outside of the boundaries that have been defined in the MLS in the past, and look at this more holistically. Look at it in terms of not just the relationship between the agents and the transaction, but the relationships between everyone that's related to that transaction throughout the entire ecosystem, okay? So, a couple of concepts here. I'm not an MLS executive. I've never run MLS operations. I'm probably the least qualified person to be standing on a stage at an MLS forum in this place. Every single one of you know more about the MLS than I do, guaranteed. But what I have been doing for the last 22 years is trying to start technology companies on the backs of the data that sits inside of the MLS. And I can tell you right now that while over these last 20 years, the walls have started to come down, most of the walls are still there, not because the efforts of RISO haven't been excellent in what they've been trying to do, and not because MLSs don't have a desire for it, but I believe the architecture that exists behind these systems needs to be updated at a pace that I'm not certain the industry is prepared for. There are people in this audience, some of whom I've had the pleasure of meeting in the last couple of weeks, who are working very hard towards those goals, but it is not a simple task. It is, though, something that if we don't begin to make these decisions now, someone else is going to come in and grab this data and do it for you. That's a fact. This industry has never been more ripe for disruption. Not ever. Not ever in its history. We're at a very unique space and time. I hope you all understand that. So, take you back in time, 3 years. 3.5 years ago, at Google I/O, they did a demo of the initial Lambda AI. I don't know if you remember it. Sundar Pichai gets up on stage and he introduces a conversation between somebody and the planet Pluto. And I watched that demo, and I didn't see somebody talking to the planet Pluto. I saw somebody talking to a house. And I thought to myself, this is what should happen. I should be able to pull up next to a house, scan a QR code, and be on the phone talking to the house, like literally talking. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I'm a 1950s ranch. I was built by this architect. I've had 3 updates in the last years. My roof is 10 years old. My water heater's about to break down. That's what I want. What I want is actually the ability to talk, if I could, to the entire history of that home, to the last home inspection that was done, to the last upgrade that was done on that house. That should be possible. And so I had this conversation, and I want to just say Akhilesh and Rahul and Sheetal, 3 of the co-founders, 3 of the 5 co-founders at StyleDot are here today. In one of our very first conversations, I laid out this challenge to them because they were the first people, besides being amazing human beings, and if you haven't met them, you should, they're the first people I'd met in my career who I believed had the technical chops to be able to accomplish this. Now, this is pre-ChatGPT. You have to understand that, right? We're talking early 2021. And the second challenge that I gave them, equally as difficult, in fact, maybe more difficult, given what was available at the time, was automate virtual tours. Create a completely different dynamic between what the consumer can do when they're looking for a house and what actually happens today. Let me dream. If I'm in this process of dreaming, let me dream even further. Give me the ability to literally go in, change the look of that house to what I might. Why should a property description be singular? If you're following me around anyway to give me leads, why not follow me around and understand what am I interested in? And so when I land on that property, why can't that property description be written for me? See, all of that's possible, but all of it requires dreaming at a level that maybe we don't do. And it's this entrepreneurial mindset. Do I agree with everything that was said in that previous presentation? Absolutely not. But those conversations have to be had. We have to take a look at ideas. Ideas aren't the problem. The decisions we make are the problem. The execution on these ideas are the problem. So the goal here is, I don't just want one talking house. I want to be able to talk to any house that's for sale. And we're seeing applications come along where people are coming through providing these tertiary products built on top of MLS data that are putting chat interfaces between the data inside of the properties and the human on the other side using natural language. That's where this is all headed. And that's where we need to be aiming for. So we've got to make a change. There has to be a shift. We have to move away from this listing-centric model in the MLS to a property-centric model in order for us to accomplish this. That's a big move, and not something that's simple to accomplish on the back of the way databases are organized today. We see it, we know it. How do you make that move? How do you get it there? Now, I'm very thankful that the people that I get to hang out with on a regular basis know more about this than I do. And we can simply have conversations about what's the mindset and who are the partners that need to be teamed up with in order to make this happen, okay? Been saying this for a long time, not the first to say it. Clive Humby said it in 2006, British mathematician. Data's the new oil. At the time, when I first heard it, I wasn't sure I believed it. Simply because in order to get to the value inside of data, you need to have so much of it, and you need to have such processing speed. What is possible today was not possible in 2006. All of you know that. And so AI comes along, and AI is the new electricity. AI drives the need for this data. Data is becoming more and more valuable as AI progresses, not less valuable. And the data, the unique, novel data that sits inside of the MLS databases, if you don't think people want that data or that they're not coming for it, your head's not in the right place. It's simply incredibly valuable data. And I believe it's the right of the MLS to profit from the accumulation of that data. I believe it's the right for the MLS to profit from it, but I also believe it's a responsibility of the MLS to provide a dividend back to the people who are contributing to that data. There has to be what I'll call a healthier ecosystem for how all of this works. Now, how we get there, man, bigger heads than mine are going to have to deal with that. But it's necessary if we're going to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, both for the consumer and for the real estate agents who depend on organized real estate. And those same kinds of thinking, the same kind of logic is going to be required if we're going to transfer this over into other markets, as well as a willingness to learn from them as well. We don't get everything right in the United States. So we have to be willing to listen. What are the ideas that are coming from outside? How do we understand the unique cultures and the differences between the way we work and the way people want to work in other industries? So, just a little over a year ago, it amazes me. I've been saying it hasn't been a year for so long in presentations, and now we're just past a year, but it was just a year. On November 29th, 2022, you went to sleep, and the next morning you woke up to a completely different world. And I wish that I could oversell what's happening, but I don't believe that I can. I don't typically get completely caught up in the hype of technologies. Didn't buy the whole Bitcoin thing, never got involved with it. But this is a different beast. What we're talking about now is literally changing the world and how we're going to interface with computers. So we all woke up, nothing's ever going to be the same, it's never going to go back. Regulate the crap out of it, I don't care, someone's going to get around it. This is the direction we're headed. And so we talk about ChatGPT and we hear about these bigger models, but this is the crazy stuff. Go onto Hugging Face and look at the number of AI models that are available for people to play with, test environments to play with. There's 413,000 of these models. As of the 27th, this morning when I checked, it was over 418,000. It's just not slowing down. I've never seen this kind of pace ever before in technology adoption. We are moving at a speed that it is impossible to keep up with. And so you cannot do this by yourself. It's not going to be possible. Even venture capitalists, the most non-risk averse people on the planet, these people take risks for a living. It's what they do, are scared of the pace, for fear that they're going to make a bet on something that in 2 weeks is going to seem like old news. Everyone is scared. You don't even have to look further than the craziness that happened 2 weeks ago at OpenAI with the firing and the rehiring of the CEO. Why did that happen? Everyone, literally everyone, is dependent now on the things that they've built. I don't go a day without using ChatGPT. I don't know what I would do if they went away. And that's where we sit. So here's the thing, though. Everyone's afraid, but fear can't lead to inaction. And I want to tell a quick story, and I like to tell it as often as I can because Emily Chenevert needs a massive amount of credit. We started building a new association management platform about 4 years ago. She made the decision to buy our product and sign a contract before we had written a single line of code. Now, first of all, it takes cojones the size of the state that she lives in. But second of all, it takes a tremendous amount of trust. And so what we're talking about, this betting, this doubling down on cooperation, what I'm talking about is developing the kinds of partnerships, the kind of relationships with the vendors, others in the industry, organized real estate itself, with your agents and with your brokers, that surpasses anything you've done in the past. And so one of the reasons why I moved from my entrepreneur in residence role with the National Association of Realtors to an advisor to Venture MLS was because of the concepts that Art Carter had about what he wanted to do with the MLS. I saw it as a potential future for how MLSs might work, and it made sense to me. An MLS and a venture fund working together is the perfect combination. It truly does double down on this concept of cooperation. And one of the first companies that we invested in was StyleDot, $1 million in StyleDot. What does that do? What does that kind of a relationship create? You've got an investment, which now makes you an owner in this company. You have a sister company, the CRMLS, one of the largest MLSs in the country, that can now be a testing ground for the ideas that the company wants to build. It, in the right conditions, should be the perfect storm for how cooperation should work inside of this industry. And so I asked Akhilesh to help me out and give me some ideas on what's happened in the year, this past year, in working with CRMLS and with the Venture MLS team. And these were his comments. The mentorship we've received on understanding agents and brokers' pain points has been invaluable, helping us zero in on solutions that truly matter. So strategy and go-to-market is improved by the relationship that exists with the MLS. Public relations, market perception, focusing on delivering value, since the profit motivation, the selling of the data, getting access to the data so you can go and make money on that, it's a different motivation. It creates a completely different dynamic in that relationship. It allows them to focus on delivering value on top of the data as opposed to making money from the data. It's a very subtle difference, but it's an important difference. Premium derivative products, getting input directly from the staff, from the people who actually manage this data and this information, allows them to understand what are the things that we can build that really will deliver value back into this ecosystem. Obviously, moral support, cultural navigation, beyond the technology and the business side, really, really getting to it. Their willingness to engage in open, candid discussions has built a foundation of trust and transparency, which has been just as crucial to our success as any technological innovation. And this is the other side of the equation. When I went and asked Dan Ray, Dan, what has this different kind of a relationship, this partner relationship with a vendor done on the CRMLS side? The ability to see the future in this field that's moving impossibly fast and to design right now for the kind of solutions we'll be able to stand up in 6 months or a year. What's interesting to me is he said, the ability to see the future. I don't know where this is going. No one knows where this is going. See the future, how far? It doesn't matter. The partnership, the relationship, the trust that's built, the cooperation that exists in that kind of a relationship turns into greater insight on the part of the MLS that allows them to plan better. That's a fact. So, what does lie ahead? I will quote Brad Inman. Our imaginations aren't big enough to see what's coming. And we're not ready. We're just not. We can't see what's coming. We have no idea where it's going. We're not ready for it. So, since we can't see what's coming and we're not ready for it, what the heck should we be doing? New ways of fighting war. You need a well-trained staff. I think what you need are learning environments. I think if you spent some time talking to Emily, she would tell you that after the launch of Tangilla, they weren't really looking to reduce staff. What they were really looking to do was to take staff and move them around and use them in different positions, which means that as a leader, you have to have that staff in a position where they're willing to take on that change and to learn the new things they need to learn to accomplish the company's goals, okay? So first thing, create a learning environment. Build relationships, not walls. The kind of relationship that CRMLS has with StyleDot as a result of the investment and the other companies they're investing in, completely different kind of relationship. It changes the dynamic of how this works. And then lastly, and this is really what our panel coming up is going to be talking about, create a diverse economic ecosystem. These partnerships should create new kinds of products, new ways of working together, and it should change how people see what the MLS does and what the definition of cooperation means. And so that's what I'm hoping for this next session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. So with that, I'm going to give you all a reprieve from this stifling room, just to let you know that the heater or the air conditioner is on full blast. So this is something we might have to endure for a couple days, but the presentations and the knowledge we're gaining is worth it. So with that being said, we're going to take a 20-minute coffee break. Let's be back in here at 11:10 a.m. for 2 panel sessions before lunch. Thanks, everyone.